Hey, what's up? And thanks for dropping into another episode here on the Path to Freedom podcast. This is episode 131. Today, my guest is Danessa Itaya, and Danessa is the president of Bio1 franchise. You guys know I love to spotlight all different types of franchise businesses out there, but I particularly enjoy spotlighting franchises that are typically not on most people's radar and the last type of business that most people think of when they think of a franchise. And this is probably the best example I've brought to the show yet. Bio1 is a crime and trauma scene cleanup franchise. Yeah, you heard me right. This is a franchise where you go and clean up crime scenes, trauma scenes. And as you can imagine, there are no shortage of wild examples and stories that Danessa shares here in this episode. So really cool business opportunity. I mean, definitely a needs-based business. A lot of other things that people find attractive about it: low cost, low overhead, scalable, a lot of different referral partnership opportunities, as Danessa kind of explains in this episode as well. So really cool franchise opportunities, some really cool stories that get shared in this episode. So without further ado, let's drop in with Danessa Itaya of Bio1. Danessa, maybe give us kind of a quick introduction, tell us a little bit about the brand that you're with, and from there we'll get into some more specifics.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of course.
So Wes, we're going to change that so that you can talk more about Bio1 to the folks that you interact with, and it's a unique opportunity. Just a little bit about me. I've been in franchising pretty much my whole career. Started out at Molly Maid when we had about 100 franchisees. I was the accounting assistant. My job was to enter royalty reports and pay the bills, and which seems like a logical path to becoming president eventually, yeah, right? That's how most people get in franchising. I just was really afforded the opportunity to learn so many different facets of franchising there at Molly Maid, which eventually became Service Brands International. Learning just everything from accounting to license administration to operations to training and development. And so it was a great, we call it Service Brands University. You get to learn as much as you can. Great group of people over there. And then we had, and then with that, it allowed me the opportunity to pursue some other brands. Worked with Made Right, which was a sister company to Jam Pro International, kind of taking that master franchise concept and building a residential model on that. And so that was a lot of fun, being able to create something from the ground up, knowing everything I knew about the residential industry and being able to start from scratch was really awesome.
I bet, yeah.
And so did that for many years, and then had the opportunity to join PMI Property Management Inc. That's what moved our family from Atlanta to Utah here, and we love to ski. We love the outdoors, and so in addition to the opportunity to join an amazing team, we also got to visit some national parks and work on our skiing and snowboarding a bit. So
very cool. Yeah, beautiful part of the country.
Yes. And then you mentioned that I just recently joined 5-Star Franchising and with the team over there at Bio1. And so amazing group of folks. I think one of the things that for me, I took 5 months off just to take a step back and say, what do I really want to do? Do I want to invest in a franchise? Do I want to continue and work at the franchisor? Do I want to join a supplier? And lots of opportunity there. And with that, I came across 5-Star, and they're extremely well respected in the industry as a franchisor. And so the opportunity to partner with them was phenomenal. And so I joined the Bio1 team when, they approached me about a crime scene and trauma cleaning concept. And they said, oh, but you've got lots of cleaning background. And I thought, not this kind of cleaning.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's entirely relevant, but yes, for those listening, you heard that right. Bio1 is a crime scene and trauma cleaning franchise opportunity. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that most of the people listening didn't know that existed as a franchise opportunity. And most people probably just have never really put a lot of thought into what happens, when there is some sort of a crime scene or, a traumatic event. Who comes in to clean up the mess? Somebody has to, right? So, like I said, fascinating concept, and definitely want to, dive into more of the specifics. I'm sure you've got no shortage of entertaining stories that you can share from, work that has been done across the Bio1 franchise system. But, before we go there, I'm glad you shared a little bit of your background, because I think it's really relevant. The way that you kind of have worked your way up through these different franchise organizations, I can only imagine that, that has given you a lot of perspective that, now leading a brand, you're able to really leverage and, make sure that the Bio1 franchisees are getting the type of support that they need to really go out and be successful. And talk just a little bit more about 5-star franchising for those that may not be aware, because I think this is an important point to emphasize as well. The fact that Bio1 is part of this kind of larger family of brands under this 5-star franchising umbrella. What are some of the benefits that a Bio1 franchisee is going to see through the relationship with 5-star?
Yeah. It's interesting. So, as you look at franchising, you see more of that trend of, kind of a parent company, and then multiple brands. And there are a couple things that I've really enjoyed, being just in my short time with 5-star. Couple things. One is, from a franchisee standpoint, we get to leverage our buying power. So not just what Bio1 and 130 plus franchisees can do, but being able to leverage hundreds of franchisees. And so that buying power gives us the ability to really negotiate some really great programs for them.
Yep.
So the buying power is phenomenal. And so we've got a whole team that we have 5-star, we have a 5-star supplier site. And so everything from rental cars to being able to source your fleet, to being able to provide benefits to your employees, to payroll, to whatever the needs are, we've been able to build a program there. So big advantage there. I think from a leadership standpoint, the other thing that I really have enjoyed is every week, all of the 5-star brand presidents get together, and we just kind of have a huddle up. And so it's nice to be able to have kind of a safe place that you can kind of say, okay, has anybody come across this? Or, hey, what did you do about that? Or how did you roll this out? And so it's been a great kind of group to be able to kind of pick their brains a bit, and be able to share best practices across all brands.
Yeah, I could see that being hugely valuable. I mean, really one of the same benefit of being a franchisee, within a great franchise system, is that shared learning and the ability to learn from each other and support. So you kind of have that in your role with the other brand presidents in 5-star franchising. So real quickly, what are the other brands that are currently part of 5-star franchising?
Absolutely. So 5-star, well, so they first started with 5-star painting, and then sold that, and then picked up 5-star bath solutions, so bathroom remodeling, We've got Gotcha Covered, which is window treatments. We've got Mosquito Shield, which is pest control. We've got 1-800 Pack Outs, which is works very closely with the insurance industry. So when you
Yep.
have a fire or disaster, and then 1-800 Textiles, which does the restoration
Yeah.
work. And then we have another brand that is a little bit unique in the sense that it's not a franchise brand, but it's our marketing arm. And so ProNexus handles a lot of the marketing as it relates from a digital standpoint. They also manage our call center. So it's nice to have that in the family. You've got that
Totally.
expertise. I'm not having to source out to another agency. These guys are held accountable just like every brand at 5-star. And so it's been a great opportunity to leverage that knowledge, and they understand us better than anybody.
Yeah, I think I was telling you when we talked a few weeks ago, one of the brands my wife and I own, we used to work with ProNexus for the call center services, and it was great. And having a call center in the first place is so critical, in most of these types of more service-based businesses. But we had a great experience with ProNexus. Really kind of wish that we were still working with them for our call center services. That wasn't our call, but yeah, so really interesting kind of collection of brands that 5-star franchising has, and interesting how some of them really kind of complement each other, right? Where you've got Bio One, God forbid something traumatic happens in a bathroom, Bio One can come clean it. 1-800 Pack Outs can come move stuff out of the house, and then 5-star Bath Solutions can come in and remodel the bathroom if that's what needs to happen. So really interesting. But back to kind of the main topic for today, which is Bio One. So give us kind of the quick overview. What exactly is it that Bio One does from a services standpoint? And then we'll kind of go from there to peel a few more layers back.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bio One, and like you said, you're absolutely right. A lot of people don't know we exist as it relates to a service provided, because most of us hope we never have to call us.
Sure.
I mean, this is definitely a brand that you hope you're never having to make that phone call. So there are a couple of different arms. Predominantly, we specialize in the bio cleanup. So after the police have left, after the deceased has been removed from the home, then the family will reach out to us. We work with victim advocate groups. We work with local police departments, first responders, so that they know as they're talking to the family, saying, they're kind of like, what happens now? I mean,
yeah,
what do I
something
do
most
here?
people have never even thought about, right?
Exactly. And so during that traumatic time, we just say, hey, give them our phone number. We're a 24/7 service. Give us a call. We will come out. We'll get this taken care of. And it's it's interesting. I mean, we see a lot. We see things that most people never even think about seeing, or only see on TV.
Yeah,
And
sure.
so there's a lot of compassion that goes into that, working with the customers, working with the families, being able to help them get them back into their home so that they can continue to, whether it's grieve or kind of move on. The other component that we do is we also, we're the resource that cities reach out to for homeless encampment cleanup, for and for cleaning up after a rat infestation. We do a lot of hoarding cleanups. We always laugh because I said, one of the best lead sources for our franchisees is to go to every residential cleaning company out there, because they don't want to clean the hoard clean. They'll come in and do the maintenance clean after. So I said, we always were looking for someone to refer that business out to.
I bet.
So being able to come in and help with customers who just need that help, and it's it's tough because it does take a special person to be able to work with that customer, because they're
Yes.
embarrassed, and they're embarrassed that they live like this. And so being able to have the right person come in, and it's the thing we consistently hear. We look at our Google reviews is, hey, we love that Brian came in and took care of us. We love that Brian put together a program. We love that Richard and his team were professionals and didn't rush through things and took time to explain things. So it's interesting. We clean up the stuff that nobody else wants to clean up, and we do it with a lot of care and compassion. And that's kind of what we're known for. Our tagline is help first, business second.
Yeah, I'm sure it really is a certain type of person that's needed to have the type of compassion with a lot of the, clients and circumstances that they're dealing with. One of the franchises we own is Shelf Genie. We do custom shelving and closets, so it's very much focused on organization and storage. And so we encounter some hoarding type of situations from time to time. And it I mean, our designers sometimes get in there, they don't have a clue what to do, where to start. And the other thing that we've seen is a lot of times the person that lives there and is kind of hoarding everything, like they have no interest or desire to change how they're living. A
Right.
lot of times it's someone else, a family member or loved one that's kind of encouraging them and maybe bringing someone in to try to help. And so delicate situations for sure. So yeah, I imagine this is the type of brand that is certainly not going to be for everyone, but really does create the opportunity to be in a business where there's clearly need and demand for these services. But it's one where I imagine your franchisees feel very fulfilled because they can see on a daily basis how they're having a positive impact with their customers and within their communities.
Yeah, yeah, you're exactly right. I was actually, my second week with the brand was our top achievers trip. So we brought all of our top achievers from 5 star and from Bio One down to the Dominican Republic. I know it's a tough job, and and it was a perfect opportunity for me to get to know our top performers and spend some time. And that was one of the questions I said, hey, I mean, you guys have told me some crazy stories here. Why do you do this? And that
Yeah.
was exactly it. As they said, the ability to give back to your community and be able to help your community and have an amazing business model. I mean, we couldn't find something that was a better match for them. And so for them, they were extremely high level of satisfaction there.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So talk about, your franchise owners a little bit, and in particularly some of these top performers. Like what type of a background do they have? I mean, one of the things I run into a lot as I'm working with people is, a lot of times people have the tendency to look at, these different franchise businesses and say, oh, well, I don't have any experience in that industry. So, how could I own a business in that industry? They kind of gravitate towards things that may have something in common with their professional background. But a lot of times that's not necessarily going to be the case, right? A lot of franchises out there really don't care if their franchise owners have, what I would call relevant industry experience. They're looking for certain personality traits, mindset, skill sets that they know are going to translate well to being successful as franchise owners in their business model. So what does that look like for Bio One? Do you have kind of some common
Yeah.
backgrounds amongst your franchise owners, or is it all over the board?
Uh, so I'd like to say that, hey, if people say, oh, I don't know if I have the stomach to do that. And that is one component. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a reality of what we do. But we do have several businesses that have an executive that offer that, executive model, or are using that executive model where they're not out in the field. They're the office folks. They're the marketing people. They're the networking people. I've got a franchisee who has a business in Indianapolis, and then 2 in Phoenix, and
Oh, wow.
and he's a former police chief. Now, so we've got former first responders. We've got former military. We've got, as I look at it, and then we've got people who have absolutely no experience in this. And it's kind of the beauty of franchising, right? I mean, we will teach you everything. And then you're going to learn even more, and you're going to learn all these best practices from all of your neighboring franchisees.
Yep.
And so for that, I look at it, and people always say, well, who's your best candidate? And I'm like, it's a little of everything. I mean, we've got, people who are first responders. We've got people who come from the, engineering industry, who come from software development. It's all over. I tell people, just like anything in franchising, yes, our widget is a little bit unique, but understanding the ability to follow a business model, be able to work hard, be able to follow a business plan, those are, and a little bit of a sales and marketing mentality. This is,
Sure. Yeah.
just like everything else. Yes, we are not a, people hope that they use us once. People hope that,
Yeah.
we're not, hey, by the way, but
Your
we are
customers don't want to be frequent flyers.
right, exactly. And who, a lot of our referral networks come from former first or existing first responders, from victim advocate groups, from local community members. And so we tell people, hey, it's important to be involved in your community. Even though what we do is a little unique, we support our suicide prevention groups. We come to their annual conferences. We want to be able to provide those resources from here are some suicide prevention resources. Here are some hoarding, 5 signs of hoarding and ways to identify. So being able to provide those resources back to the community is important to us. In addition to kind of saying, hey, we hope you don't have to call us, but if you do need our resources, we're here for you. We're tied to your community. We're locally owned and operated. And we find the majority of majority of the work that we do comes from local boots on the ground marketing.
Yeah, I was going to say that seems like this is the type of business where, the franchise owner is really going to need to be comfortable going out and networking and developing relationships. It seems like there's, especially the more you're talking, there's just a lot of different options or possibilities for, developing these referral partnerships. I mean, I'm sure there's kind of some of your standard digital marketing, right? If someone
absolutely
services, they don't know where to get this, so they start Googling around, like, you're going to show up there. But yeah, it seems like the low-hanging fruit is to really get out there and develop some of these relationships with other organizations and other, experts and professionals that are going to be in a position to refer people to you when there's a need. If you're listening to this podcast, then there's a good chance that you're looking to create more freedom in your own life. There's also a good chance that you realize that owning your own business can be a great way to take more control of your livelihood and create more of that freedom that we're all looking for. Also, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you realize that I specialize in franchise ownership. In addition to owning franchise businesses myself, I have a franchise consulting firm, Path to Freedom, where I help people navigate what is typically an overwhelming process of understanding franchising, identifying specific franchise companies that could be a fit, and then conducting the due diligence in a thorough and efficient manner with those franchise brands. My whole purpose here is to leverage my experience working for franchisors, owning franchises myself, and how we've been able to use that to create more freedom in our lives and help you determine if that could be a path that makes sense for you as well. So if any of this sounds interesting, if you've considered business ownership in the past, whether you've explored franchising specifically or not, I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to learn more about you and what it is that you're working towards in your life and determine if I may be in a position to help. A great starting point is the link below in the show notes, which will take you to a short form to fill out, and you'll receive a free copy of an ebook that I've put together, The 7 Steps to Freedom Through Franchise Ownership. That'll also get us connected, and I'd love to set up an introductory call where I can explain a little bit more about the process that I use to help people determine if franchise ownership could be a great way to start charting their own path to freedom. So click the link below in the show notes, receive the ebook, and let's get connected. I'd love to hear from you. So on that, and I'm sure this varies a little bit. You already gave an example of a franchisee that owns multiple markets. What does the owner's role typically look like for a new franchisee that's getting started? Are they, really out there, for lack of a better way putting it, getting their hands dirty and actually working the cleanup part of this, or are they able to hire for that and they focus more on the business development and the referral partnerships? What does that typically look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it can happen multiple ways. Majority of our businesses will come out, they'll start, we call it the Tyvek suit. So they're in the suit. So a lot of our franchisees right out of the gate, it's them and one other person to go in and do that work. And the franchisee is also generating the business, doing the networking. I have one franchisee who says, I always want to be in the suit because that's when I can do the best selling. And that's where I get to interact with the customer. Many of our franchisees say, hey, my goal is to build my business, so I'm not in the suit. And so as I can continue to scale the business. I have some who come in and say, I'll never be in the suit. I'm going to learn how to be in the suit. But with that, I want to hire employees immediately out of the gate. They will go out, they will work closely with the customer. I will be that point of contact for them as it relates to marketing, as it relates to any of the administrative aspects of it.
Yeah, that'd be me.
Yeah,
as a franchisee, I think I don't know that I'd want to be in the suit personally. Not sure I have the stomach for it.
Right. I think and I'm very much the same way. When I was with Molly Maid and I'd go out and help do a quality check and we'd have to, help out the team. They'd say, Danessa, you're too slow. And I'm like, I know I'm too slow, but I can put together a business plan like nobody's business.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. Know your lane and stay in it. So, couple of questions that have just kind of popped into my mind as you've been talking here. I guess since we're kind of on the subject of, new franchise owners and how should they be spending their time? I got to know, what does training look like for this? Like, are you guys buying buckets full of fake blood and
real blood?
Where do you buy real blood from?
So
that was an option.
We take them through a mock scene cleanup. And so with that, we have to stage a scene. And I'll tell you, we generally what we've done is we set it up the night before. And so we use sheep's blood. You buy it online. and
okay.
We laugh because the first week I was there, I opened the fridge to get some mayonnaise or something, and sure enough, there's the blood right next to it. And I thought, well, this is getting used to the new brand. But we set up a mock scene that's real blood, and so we did this the night before the trainees were going to come and clean it. And the next morning we came in and the people who clean our office had cleaned it up. And so we thought, oh no, what do they think we do here?
Right. Yeah. Is there a police incident reported for our training office?
Oh, it was hysterical. So we owe our cleaning crew a huge debt of gratitude for being willing to clean anything. However, we've now learned that we set it up the morning before and
Yeah.
make sure that the cleaning crew knows, do not enter this room.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
and no one was actually murdered in this room.
right.
This is for training purposes only.
They cleaned
Um,
the knife. They put it, back in the sink. I mean, they did a good job.
well, hey, if you need to recruit some people locally, then you might have your candidates right there. What about, and I'm sure this varies as well, but who's typically paying for these services? I mean, obviously it's a business, there's a cost. Is this, and I mean, there's so many different scenarios, I guess, where, Bio One would be called in, but is this something that, insurance is paying in some instances? Is it usually the customer paying out of pocket? What are the different, I guess, kind of revenue mixes in terms of who's paying?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked that question. So for a majority of the bio jobs, you're working with insurance carrier. And so being able to, and most people don't know that. They don't know that, if there's a death in your home and someone needs to come in and clean it, that your homeowner's insurance does cover that.
Okay, so
And
homeowners
so,
insurance, yeah.
yeah, homeowners insurance. And then we recognize that working with insurance carriers is, there's a lot of hoops that you jump through there. So we actually do have someone on staff at our office who that's what she specializes in. So we just say, hey, work with her. She's gonna, once you give her the scope of work and the invoice, then she'll be able to work directly with the insurance adjuster to get that taken care of. Um, so when we look at that, we say we absolutely, insurance jobs is one component. And then the others, we have what we call private pay. So that's when the homeowner pays or the individual pays. And, for hoarding cleans, they can run, as high as, 6, 7, 8, 15 grand. And
Believe it.
that's
Yeah.
significant.
Yeah.
That's significant. And so with that, we have programs that we provide that the franchisee is able to provide third-party financing built into our programs. They, when they get the proposal, they can click the button that says, hey, yeah, I'd like to see if I can finance this. So really being able to provide a solution to the homeowner, we never want to have to turn down business because someone cannot um, pay for it. That is always our goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting. So I've got to ask, what are some of the just wildest stories that you've heard from, your franchisees since, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the goriest stories, I guess, whatever you're comfortable sharing, but I don't feel like I'd be doing my job very well if I didn't ask you for at least a couple of stories here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know if they're wild and gory, but so one of the things that you remember the concert at the Mandalay Bay
Yeah.
for
Jason
the
Aldean.
shooting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so Bio One was called in to
Really?
do.
Okay. Wow.
Yes. And so it was really actually kind of interesting because obviously, I mean, I think, they had to clear the scene. They had to, do everything the FBI needed to do. So the FBI was involved and they cleared the scene. And then, it was huge. It was a big job. And so with that, our franchisee in Las Vegas, we had several other franchisees, local and not local, reach out to him and say, we'll be there. We'll come and help you do that.
Wow.
And so it was neat to see that no matter the magnitude of the job, that we were able to take care of it as a brand. And so it's one of those things where you hate that it happens. But yeah, we've been in, we consulted on the Sandy Hook school shooting. So there are quite a few that we've been able to consult or be part of that cleanup. But it's a needed service. It's one of those things.
What's the thing? It's just, it's like insurance. It's like restoration companies,
Yeah.
there's no one's ever hoping that they need these services, but God forbid someone's in a position when they do. It's really nice to have a company that specializes in these things, that knows how to come in and handle everything. I mean, I can only imagine if something traumatic happened at my house or at our office, and I've got to figure out how to get everything cleaned up. Like, no, I want to be able to hand that off to someone that knows what they're doing, has a process, knows how to, interact with me with, some level of understanding or compassion or whatever. It's a needed service, but to have a company that specializes in it versus, the cleaning company that, they do
Right.
one of these a year, if that, and so they're not really equipped to handle it appropriately. So,
Yeah.
I mean, is it safe to say that Bio One is really kind of the leader in the crime scene and trauma cleanup? I mean, I imagine there's some competition out there, but it's probably pretty fragmented and not as specialized as Bio One.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And especially on the franchise front,
Yeah,
the ability to bring this locally owned and operated, so you're getting someone very quickly, because
yeah,
name of the game on this is you got to be on scene as quickly as possible. and
sure.
and so with that, we've got 130 plus locations, and I hear about franchisees who are willing to drive a couple hours and to help a family out. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so 130 locations.
Yeah.
So pretty good, footprint at this point, pretty good, track record, but also a lot of room to grow.
A
It
lot of
sounds like,
opportunity,
yeah,
to grow. We were actually we were at the FBI National Academy Associates annual conference. So these are people from all over the world, but predominantly in the U.S. FBI trained, but police chiefs, high level police departments, and so they had their annual conference in Denver, and so we were there at their exhibit hall. And it was really interesting because as we would explain to people what we do, we felt like we had really great coverage, but there are some that we said, hey, we do have a franchisee in that market, but it would probably take them a couple hours to get there. And so again, as much, these people are like, hey, well, we need this service, we need your service. And it was exciting for them to understand what we do, what we provide. And so knowing as a first responder, as a police officer, as a sheriff, that they can say, hey, after they've come in and tear gassed the place, or after they've come in and cleared the scene, that the family that's distraught there, they can say, call these people, they're going to take care of you, they'll be here on scene, they'll be able to get you taken care of. You're not having to clean this yourself. So it was exciting to get that kind of response from them.
yeah, I bet. Yeah, I can't imagine going through something like that and then having to clean
Right.
it up myself or even think about that. So talk to me a little, like, what does this look like at scale? I mean, I imagine, like with most franchises, the goal is for your franchisees, even if they're very hands-on, a lot of time in the suit in the beginning, the goal is to scale it, build out a team. Give us some examples, and I mean, you don't have to talk like revenue or numbers, but give us some examples of some of your larger franchisees. What does their team look like? I mean, I know you said you got the guy in Indianapolis and Phoenix. I imagine he's, had to do a good job building out teams to cover both of those markets. So what does that kind of look like? What's the big opportunity for the
Yeah.
franchisees that can really scale?
Absolutely. So big opportunity in the sense that, yeah, getting building your infrastructure so that you've got to, whether it's a general manager, whether it's the franchisee, to have multiple teams. It's the beauty of what we do is we're not reliant on hundreds of employees.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the thing that I think a lot of people are concerned about, is just kind of, how am I going to staff this? And the way we stagger our work is that, obviously, the bio jobs come first, and so we've got bio jobs. But then if we get a hoarding clean, then we're able to schedule that accordingly. And so with that, you're not having to try and do all of it at once. You're
Yeah.
able to say, okay, bio job, we're going to be there on scene within X, within an hour. But then the hoarding clean, then maybe if I had 4 guys there, I maybe have 2 guys, and I took my other 2 guys to go to work the bio job. And so being able to adjust and accommodate your schedule that way allows the franchisees to be able to scale very quickly, and be able to take on. And then, if they need to add some additional teams, then they'll continue to grow that way.
Yeah, and I imagine it's similar to the franchise owner, where their employees don't necessarily need to have a background in this, as long as they're
Right.
willing to go through the training, they're coachable, all of that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Something I wanted to ask you that came up as you were kind of talking through. Oh, from an equipment standpoint, because this is, comparatively speaking, this is, kind of a lower cost franchise opportunity. I mean, this is not hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it up and running. There's not, obviously any sort of a brick and mortar or, retail component. So what does a franchisee need in order to be able to start operating the business from an infrastructure standpoint? Do they need an office? What type of equipment or, vehicles do they need? And what does that look like as they continue to scale?
Yeah, yeah. So you're absolutely right. We're not buying pizza ovens. We're not a brick and mortar kind of a job. Most of our franchisees actually start out from their home,
Okay.
and we recommend that they get a box truck, so that they can carry their supplies. Again, there are some supplies. I mean, you're dealing with cleaning, you're dealing with ozone, you're dealing with OSHA, dealing with the biohazard cleaning bags, things like that. So there's a little bit of an investment, and we cover that in the kind of our initial kit. Uh, but then the truck, we request that it be not marked, because there's a level of discretion that we want to provide customers as well. And so
Yeah.
want
Makes a lot of
you,
sense.
right? I mean, you don't want a big Bio One truck pulling up to your house. Now your neighbors are like,
We
"What's going
remove dead bodies, like,
on?"
yeah.
But then, their second, third, fourth vehicle, absolutely, they can logo the heck out of it, and we've got, we provide the logo, the logos, and all of that fun stuff. But with that, and then as they scale, maybe you get another box truck later on down. But generally, majority of our franchisees are able to operate with 1 or 2 box trucks, and then a couple of other vehicles, as they scale their business. So again, it's not a lot of capital initially there to get up and running.
Yeah. Yeah, fascinating. I didn't think about the not wrapping the trucks. Most franchises are going to require that you wrap your vehicle, which only makes sense. But in this case, yeah, I could see why that really does not make sense.
Yeah.
So interesting. What have I not asked you about that I should have asked you about? With this fascinating, very unique franchise concept.
Yeah. I think you've probably covered most of it here. I think, just from a Bio One standpoint, I think you're familiar with the Franchise Business Review, and they do their annual survey every, and so we do the same. We use Franchise Business Review, a third party. we were talking about franchisee satisfaction,
Mm-hmm.
and it is one of the things that consistently we see on our FBR survey is the high level of franchisee satisfaction there. And so for us, we look at that and say, hey, we recognize this is not a sexy business. This is, nobody's getting into it saying, I really want to see gross stuff every day. But the fact that the ability to be part of the community, the ability to give back to the community, the ability to engage with other fellow franchisees, for them, they say, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah. I mean, helping people in a very hard, difficult time of need is certainly rewarding. And I imagine there's some level of, like, I have a really good friend that's a firefighter, and he's seen some terrible stuff, right? I have a friend that's an ER surgeon. His every single day is being surrounded by horrible events, people dying in many cases. And while it's very rewarding, when these types of people are able to help these people that are in need, they also kind of get to a point where they're able to come home and they're able to live their life fairly normally. Like it doesn't stay with them all the time, even the really horrible things that they see. So I imagine it's got to be similar for these franchisees, where they can appreciate the way in which they're able to help, but then also kind of compartmentalize the horrible things that they're seeing close up, that the vast majority of us never have to see.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the ability to compartmentalize, the ability, many of our franchisees, they use humor as a way to kind of release. But then we also have examples where, hey, the employee, or whether it's the franchisee or the employee, our franchisees will provide some support services as well as needed. And so we're building relationships with, from a national level, to be able to have franchisees be able to point their employees towards, hey, that was pretty tough. Here's a phone number if you ever need to call them, to just download, because you do want to go home, and you do want to just be you at home, but
Sure.
you also need an outlet. And so yeah, it's interesting. And first responders, they, like you said, they experience this every day as well. And so building some relationships there with some groups that see this and they understand it, and be able to help provide some of those mechanisms to cope.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I would love to come to your next franchisee annual convention, buy every franchisee a round or two at the bar, and just be a fly on the wall and hear some of the stories that these guys are trading back and forth. That sounds like good fun. You guys should start a Bio One podcast. As popular as the murder mystery and real crime type of podcast are. You guys could probably go viral.
That's a great marketing tool. There you go.
Might be.
Yeah.
Well, this was fascinating. Really appreciate you taking the time to kind of walk us through the Bio One franchise opportunity, Danessa. Where can people go if they want to connect with you? Where can they go to learn more about Bio One, 5-star franchising? Where would you point them?
Absolutely. To learn more about us, you can go to bio1franchising.com, as well as, if you want to just check us out, you can go to bio1inc.com, and 5starfranchising.com. So any information that you need, if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me at Danessa.Itaya@bio1inc.com. Would love to talk to you, share a little bit more. As you can tell, we love talking about the brand. So,
well, it's a very cool brand, and one that's really having a positive impact and helping the people that you serve. So thank you so much for dropping in here on the Path to Freedom podcast. Really appreciate everything you're doing, and keep up the great work.
Thanks so much.